Welcome to Doug in Exile.
I do believe that some of these individuals, specifically with Tim Walz, he does have some significant ties to the Communist Chinese Party. You've seen that with all of his, actually when he was a school teacher, that they actually funded his trips. He's been there from everywhere, his own admission, 15 to 30 times. So
what's this video I have here? This is the Army doing their marches because there's about to be a huge celebration of Trump's birthday tomorrow. And I believe it will be probably one of the most dangerous days in our country's history.
They're paying people $1,000 on Craigslist for coming and attending the birthday parade.
In that I believe, this is my own opinion, that Antifa and the left are going to try to pull off a bizarre weirdo insurrection tomorrow. They're going to try and take over our government. Now, Trump has ordered, he has all kinds of troops as part of his parade and a whole lot of hardware like tanks and stuff. I'm just going to play this. Play over this video. You can see barricades and walls put up also. Checkpoint. Lunatic leftists, known as Democrats showing up, but these are hard, crazy Democrats showing up.
And when we make an arrest, it's because individuals have crossed the line. And we are aware that there are members from Antifa who have made their way into the city. And we saw this before. This is not the first time we have saw outside agitators that continue to disrupt the right to protest, and it's not going to be tolerated here in this city.
So anyways, pray for the country tomorrow, because that's where they said the No More Kings or whatever protests that are going to be riots in 120 major cities in America funded by George Soros and the communist left. Tomorrow will be one of the more unstable days I can think of.
that you're tracking actually had an internal memo that was released that stated that the government of China considered you a prime target for influence operations. I'm letting you know that now because I do believe that you should be made aware of, if you are not already, that you are working with and going to be speaking at an organization and rally that not is just funded by Christy Walton, the heiress of Walmart, but also has ties to the Chinese Progressive Association, largely funding it, that actually brags on their website that they are pro-Maoist.
Now, here I really like Stephen Miller on the cost.
For the love of God, where are the damages for...
Hold on. This is on the damages that every American has taken for having illegals in this country.
For the love of God, where are the damages for Americans? Where do I even begin? Where do I even start? We used to have a functioning public school system in this country. Then we had open borders. Now our schools are in chaos and disarray. We need hundreds of translators. Nobody's learning how to read or write. An entire generation of Americans, multiple generations, in fact, have been robbed of educational opportunities. Entire cities. Look at Los Angeles. Once a paradise of safety, security, and prosperity. Entire neighborhoods occupied and controlled by foreign gangs. Where do all the residents who've been displaced, who've been forced out of Los Angeles, where do they go to get their reparations? And then what about the victims of fentanyl poisoning brought in by Democrats' open border? Hundreds of thousands of moms and dads whose kids are dead and buried in the ground. Where do they go to get their reparations from the government? And then all the women who have been raped, who've been beaten, who've been murdered, all the dads who've been shot dead and aren't home, all the police officers who've been slain by illegal aliens in ambush attacks in the line of duty. Where do any of these people go? Where do any of their families go to get reparations? Or the 500,000 children that Joe Biden trafficked across the southern border and put into the hands of unvetted so-called sponsors? Do you know how many stories I could tell you of children that were trafficked across the border and because of the policies of Joe Biden? There aren't enough volumes that could fit into a library to calculate the carnage that has been inflicted by the Democrat Party's policy of open borders. We can spend the rest of our lives trying to document those harms. Where
does the country go for recourse? I like using the reparation talk because that's what DEI did, for the last 40 years. Reparations, where's reparations? Where's my reparations? For the money I lost, from having to pay taxes for your health care, your illegal votes, your illegal actions, your crimes, huge cost when we paid for your health care, et cetera. I just think it's a very interesting argument. I like hearing Stephen Miller say it. Here's more on Democrats trying to battle Trump. This is a new lawsuit, outrageous. Obama judge blocks President Trump's executive order requiring proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections. So this is Just more of that Democrat strategy of using our court system to do a workaround, meaning that judge is having more power now than the president of the United States. Here's Karen Bass. It says, LA Mayor Karen Bass once enlisted in pro-Cuba communist group. We already reported on that earlier this year on the fires. Now it's part of the CCC, the Chinese Communist Party linked network behind these protests. China funding her communist group in Cuba that she used to be a member of. What a giant scam. Now back on what Stephen Miller said about the cost of Americans. Here's Victor Davis Hanson on how many accidents per year happen in Los Angeles, in California, and they have a runaway driver because they're illegals and they can't face the law. So 50% of the accidents are hit and run. Wait till you hear these staggering numbers.
ICE comes in, and about 20,000 people a year in Los Angeles are the victims of hit and run accidents, and that's believed.
Look at the guys on the left, his eyeballs just bulged out of his head. 20,000 people victims of hit and run.
To be largely people who are here illegally.
Wait, did you say 20,000?
Yes, 20,000.
Hit and run? Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
That is a huge crime wave. Think about the numbers. 20,000 people victims of a hit and run just in Los Angeles, in California, because it's like the size of of most states as far as population goes. It's bigger than half our states, but it's 20,000 hit and runs, mostly by illegals.
About 8% of the accidents, 8 to 10% that are fatal, are hit and run. So you've got and then you have enormous overhead on we're broke. And during COVID, Gavin Newsom said he was going to give $500 million to illegal aliens for Medi-Cal. Medi-Cal right now cover 40% of the entire state is on Medi-Cal, and 50% of every birth is on Medi-Cal. And when you look at some of the enormous problems the state has, such as, it went from the top 10% in schools 50 years ago in test scores to the bottom 10%. And we have 27% of the population was not born in the United States. So my point is that you would have this, if you're going to bring in so many people and they're going to be largely without English fluency or a high school diploma, you have an enormous problem of assimilation and integration. And Gavin, 8 to 10,000 people entered every single day of the last 4 years. Do the math. 10 to 12 million illegal entries.
Yeah, and that's just from what's come in the last 4 years. So Victor Davis Hanson with some very helpful statistics on that. But think of the crime of 20,000 hit and runs by illegals. 10% of them were fatal. That far outstrips the amount of people that died on 9/11. Of course, we only have a body count of 1 on January 6th. Like that number of people, if that's 20,000 a year in LA, a certain amount of deaths, and across the history of illegals coming in here, it would start to outstrip the amount of bodies that we lost in Iraq or even in Vietnam. The illegals represent a giant existential disaster. Now I love my American Latino people. I love Mexican food. I love American Mexicans that are here. This guy's talking about a way around it where he was initially born illegal but became a citizen. He has nothing for these illegals coming in.
So because I'm Garcia, brown, Latino, bald, talk like a beaner, and live in LA, so I need to stand up for the people that live in LA. This is what exactly I voted for. And I'm not a South-hating Latino. Matter of fact, I love my people so fucking much that I'm gonna tell you exactly what I think and what I know. I don't know a set of people that's more racist, South-hating, self-indulgent than Mexican and brown people.
That's the anti-DEI thing too that I agree with. Of course Mexicans can be racist. Of course blacks can be racist. Of course whites can be racist. Hating another race, another ethnicity, another skin color is a choice. It's a moral choice. To say that Mexicans can't be racist is ridiculous. Although my own personal experience, though, with Hispanics has been great. Yes, there's some racist. Most of them are good. Same thing with whites. Yes, there's racist. Most of them are good. Same with blacks. Yes, there's racists. Most of them are good.
Act like fucking crabs in a fucking bucket. We're not united at all. We talk about each other. We torn each other up more than any other race in this people. I am not proud of anybody in the past 60 years. Tell me one Latino that broke record and did something good in this country in the last 60 years. I'm sorry to tell you. Villaraigosa, Cesar Chavez, funny. Cesar Chavez was also a Chicano that was against immigration and still gave us civil rights. You know what's funny? It's just simply math. Simple math. It's about qualifications. You need to qualify to get a job, qualify to maintain the job, qualify to charge for that job. And then you have to qualify to rent a house, qualify to drive a car. You have to qualify to be in the country. It's just about qualifications. It's simple math. It's not rocket science.
I'm going to agree with that too. That's meritocracy is what he's talking about. Get it done, people. Now, on those riots that are coming tomorrow by the left.
So I guess my question for you guys is, now that I've made you aware that these riots are not about illegals and they're not about immigrants, if they did, they would have been protesting under Barack Obama, who's also dubbed the deporter-in-chief. And frankly, I think many of you would say that Barack Obama was a good president. Are you going to say that Barack Obama wasn't a good president? Yes or no, Governor Walz? And when you use brown people, just like they use black people with BLM and Marxists during BLM to usher that in, when you use brown people and you put Mexican flags with them saying that you stand up for illegal immigrants, but you follow the money and it's going back to the Communist Party, what you're essentially doing is using your platform as elected officials, the trust that the American people have put in you, essentially to usher in communism. You're not actually fighting for American values. Don't roll your eyes, because it's a serious topic and that's where the money's coming from. So now I'm informing you, so now you guys can make your decisions, but please be informed, sir, Mr. Walz, that if you truly do uphold the American ideologies and perspectives on the Constitution, you should not be speaking at that rally.
Here's Florida, the sheriff. If you throw a brick, firebomb, he's like, your parents are going to be picking up your remains, meaning it is a violent threat to throw a brick at a police officer. It's attempted murder is what we call throwing a brick at someone's head.
If you resist lawful orders, you're going to jail. Let me be very clear about that. If you block an intersection or a roadway in Brevard County, you are going to jail. If you flee arrest, you're going to go to jail tired, because we are going to run you down and put you in jail. If you try to mob rule a car in Brevard County, gathering around it, refusing to let the driver leave, in our county, you're most likely going to get run over and dragged across the street. If you spit on us, you're going to the hospital and in jail. If you hit one of us, you're going to the hospital and jail, and most likely get bitten by one of our big, beautiful dogs that we have here. If you throw a brick, a firebomb, or point a gun at one of our deputies, we will be notifying your family where to collect your remains at, because we will kill you graveyard dead. We're not going to play. This has got to stop.
Graveyard dead. That's a fair warning, I think, and it's all very common sense. Of course, you throw a brick at a cop, point a gun at a cop. Yeah, we're going to be notifying your family of your unfortunate passing. Why is it that I know not to point a gun at a cop or not to throw a brick at a cop's head? And Antifa and these illegals and these people that are doing these protests don't know that. Now, I'm ending on a really weird note because Trump said something I am very much against. I'm going to make a comment about it. He's showing compassion to farmers for losing their Mexican workers. And I just got to push back on Trump. This undermines everything Trump has said or stands for. This is not rule of law. So you guys, a lot of people say, you'll never say anything negative about Trump. I'm disagreeing with Trump here. I'm happy I voted for him. He's still better than anything the left would have done. It doesn't mean I have to agree with him on this, but let's watch and I'll explain.
Farmers are being hurt badly by, they have very good workers. They've worked for them for 20 years. They're not citizens, but they've turned out to be, great.
So this is about farmers, and I am related to a cotton farmer in Arizona, and they have the same story. These are Hispanic illegals that work for their farm for 20 years. They're like members of the family. They come to our weddings. They're so close to the family, and they're wonderful. They're friendly to me. I'm friendly with them. I love them. But to the illegal ones, and Trump is saying because they're good people, they're allowed to be illegal. I just want you to hear that argument. He's saying like some people are above the law. Some people you don't apply the law to. If They're really, really good people. And I want everyone to know I'm a really, really good person, even when I cheat on my, like I don't want to pay any taxes, zero the amount. In fact, I've lost whole business. I've lost my home in LA because I had to pay property taxes. So I should be able to do something illegal. The rule of law should not apply to me because I'm as great of a guy as all of those illegal Hispanics. I agree they're great. It's never an argument that you remove the rule of law because someone's a good person. Of course, good people commit crimes. When I drive my car 90 miles an hour and get a ticket, I'm a good guy, okay? And so the illegals, when they break the law and they lie to our government and they come here without an invitation or they overstay their visa, that is illegal. Doesn't have to be evil, but it's illegal. And Trump is really losing the argument here.
And we're going to have to do something about that. We can't take farmers and take all their people and send them back because they don't have maybe what they're supposed to have, maybe not.
You can't. He just said you can't take the workers away from farmers. They need the people. So all I have to do is come up with a need. You can't make me pay my taxes on this business or my house, or I'll go bankrupt. If I threaten that, you'll do what? Suddenly you don't have to take my taxes from me. You don't have to do what's legal if I'm really, really going to be hurt. I'm furious that they would show compassion on American farmers and not on the rest of us for the sacrifices we have to make by following the law. We have to follow the law, not just because we don't want to get in trouble, but because it's the right thing to do. The right thing to do is for those farmers to lose their illegal workers.
And you know what's going to happen and what is happening? They get rid of some of the people because, you go into a farm and you look and people they've been there for 20, 25 years and they've worked great and the owner of the farm loves them and everything else. And then you're supposed
following the law is heartbreaking, Trump. Really heartbreaking.
To throw them out. And you know what happens? They end up hiring the people, the criminals that have come in, the murderers from prisons and everything
else. That's also true, but it's not an excuse. These are really bad arguments. This is some of my problem with populism. It's not conservative. He's saying if you get rid of those they're legal illegals. If you get rid of them, then all the criminals will just come in and take the jobs. That's like me saying, lower the price of your video game. Or if you have the price too high, that I'm going to go online and steal a pirated version of it. If you really don't want me to do this crime, then allow me to break a lesser law of forcing you to charge less for a video game. That's all he's saying. He's going, if you don't want to hire all these illegal criminals, then allow the illegal aliens to work. This is an irrational argument. I'm sorry. I get that I'm being too much of a purist, probably. I'd love to hear from you guys in the chat. But Trump here is basically agreeing with everyone who is marching against him right now and want compassion on the illegals and saying they have to stay. You have to let them, give them habeas corpus, let them gum up the system. He's making their argument. And I think these are terrible arguments to remove the law because the person is very, very good.
So we're going to have an order on that pretty soon, I think. We can't do that to our farmers and leisure too, hotels. We're going to have to use a lot of common sense on that.
You can't do that to our leisure and our farmers and our hotels. And now you just took away the argument for why any job should be protected in America. I'm sorry. You can't do it to your farmers. Why are they magic? Besides, we all eat that food. But I can go into everything the illegals do. You can't take away those businesses of them doing roofing. You can't take away our cleaning ladies for cleaning our house. What do you want? Dirty houses? You know how many people will die from a dirty house? You can't. He's losing the grounds for removing them. He just gave away everything. Now, he's allowed. I only know the left. The other people would do worse. But boy, this is a really big mistake. And basically now he's making the argument against his own deportation policies. I'm Doug in Exile. What do you guys think? Let me know.